So I was going to make this video tomorrow, but I feel like it's kind of important to get my initial thoughts out there as soon as possible about this. And I was thinking about, like, oh man, I got to make a big presentation video about this. I've decided to hold back on that for the time, mostly because we don't really know a lot about this yet. But it was announced today, officially, that Fooly Cooly FLCL is going to be getting not one, but 2 new seasons, each consisting of 6 episodes, to serve as a sequel series to the original, which also had 6 episodes, the original OVA. Now, this information, I've granted, has been floating around for a while. I think it was back in around August or September of last year. There was an article published that it's like Fooly Cooly might be getting a new, like a remake or something. And I think actually it did say remake. So I was originally under the idea like, oh, it's going to be the same plot, just, you know, updated with new animations and stuff, and maybe throw in a few more things. And I was excited just about that. But I also kind of took it with like a little bit of grain of salt, because this wouldn't be the first time that an anime is like, oh, this anime is being released, or this video game, or this movie, and it's like the plans just, you know, evaporate, and you never hear about it again. Remember the Bleach live-action movie? Yeah, that's totally happening in the near future. Wink, wink. So, Fooly Cooly, and I've said this before, and I've made a video about this, and it's one of the more emotional videos I've ever made, actually, but Fooly Cooly is my favorite anime of all time. Bar none. And some people can understand that. You know, other people are like, really, Fooly Cooly? That's interesting choice. Not just for the fact of what, like, the plot's about, more for the fact that it's a 6-episode OVA series that is a very interesting case when it comes to anime, because usually how it goes is you have a manga that is released in one of the magazines, like Weekly Shonen Jump or Weekly Shonen Magazine or whatever, and over a period of, you know, maybe like a year or so, maybe a little bit longer, if the popularity is up a little bit, then there are talks to make an anime out of the manga. But Fooly Cooly is interesting because the manga the anime came first. There is a manga adaptation of it now, but it came after the anime. And I originally heard that the anime was, like, mostly a means to test Gainax's and Production IG's, like, new CG technology, because there's a lot of interesting models and CG work that's used throughout Fooly Cooly, and a lot of different types of animation that's sprinkled in throughout. But the reason that it's my favorite is because it holds very, very strong nostalgic and emotional and sentimental value to me. I love the story, I love the characters and the crazy animation styles and the humor, but the underlying message of the series, along with the time that I first watched it, really resonated with me in a way that I don't think I can properly convey into words. I'm going to try to put you in my mindset when I first watched Fooly Cooly, when I first was exposed to this, okay? So this was in late 2005, early 2006. I was in 7th grade. Yeah, I think. Yeah, 2007, I was in 8th. Yeah, okay, so 2005 going into 2006. Oh, wait, no, I would have been in 6th grade. Yeah, I would have been in 6th grade. So this was around the time when a lot of shit was going on in my life that was, you know, just changing from childhood to my teenage years. And it's stuff that everybody goes through. I'm not saying I'm unique here, but it's just little things like, you know, moving from the elementary school to the middle school. You know, you don't have recess anymore. You know, you're not being coddled by your teachers. You know, you're moving up the next step. You're getting more responsibility. You're going through puberty. A lot hormones are fucking raging. And another big thing was that a lot of my classmates started dating, you know, and girlfriends, boyfriends, having sex, and doing drugs and drinking, and a lot of confusing shit was going around me. And I was in the middle of it all, and I'm just like, I might as well have been dumped out into the middle of a fucking field in, like, Nebraska. like in the cornfield, like, I don't know where to go. And it was completely by accident one night that I ended up watching Fooly Cooly. I remember this very clearly. I used to record episodes of like Futurama and Family Guy on Adult Swim, because this was back in a day where you couldn't just go on the internet to watch anything that you wanted. You had to record episodes and then save them and then watch the episodes. So an interesting thing with VHS, how you would record, is you would have to, it's not like DVR, you would actually have to set the time that you would want to record. So that means you'd have to get out a TV guide, flip through the fucking TV guide, and find, okay, Cartoon Network, 11:30 p.m. Wednesday night, that's Family Guy episode is airing, so you have to go in and manually set it for channel 63, 11:30 to midnight, and that's how you'd have to do it. Well, one night I was setting the recording, and instead of setting it to 11:30 p.m. to 12 a.m., I sent it to 11:30 p.m. to 12 p.m., so 12 hours almost. And of course, you can't fit 12 hours on one VHS tape. You can only hold like a maximum of like 3 or 4 hours. So it started at 11:30, and then it stopped around like in the middle of 2 or 3 in the morning. And by accident, I ended up recording an episode of Fooly Cooly, and it just happened to be the first episode. I don't believe this was the first time Adult Swim ran this, but it was the first time I was made privy to it. So I ended up rewatching that I ran that fucking VHS tape out. Like, I couldn't put my finger on why I just kept on watching this just one episode. It was just the one episode. That was it. Just on constant repeat. I think for like 2 or 3 days. I must have watched that episode at least 10 to 15 times a day. Like, that's like, you're in school. You got nothing else to do, you know? You don't have a fucking job or anything. So come home and just watch that episode on repeat over and over. And eating honey buns. That's why whenever I eat honey buns, I think of Fooly Cooly. And I think the reason why that I loved it so much was because the underlying message is about all the confusing things that go around in a young boy's life when you're transitioning, when you're going through adolescence. All right? There's the thing with girls, obviously, but just confusion in general. You don't know what the fuck to think. And Naota is the perfect example of this, because Naota is constantly trying to act like he's got a hold on this. Like, he's trying to act mature. He thinks he knows what it means to be mature. And he kind of, like, belittles his other people around him for acting immature, because he thinks, like, oh, yeah, I'm a 12-year-old kid. I got this down. I'm the mature one. Everyone around me is a child. And teenagers are like that. They think they know better. But then, after a while, it starts to sink into him, like, I really have no idea what the fuck I'm putting on this act, but I'm really just as clueless as everybody else is. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay to be confused. You know, confused with girls, confused about life, confused about your identity, who you really are. That's normal. That's fine. Something else about Fooly Cooly is I remember watching certain episodes and feeling a little bit uncomfortable while watching them, and not in a bad way. But there was a lot of stuff watching Fooly Cooly that was very sexual in nature that I had never been privy to. Because remember, at this point, we had dial-up internet. Like, the idea of going on and looking at porn is very different from now. Okay? So I didn't know a lot about this shit. And then you had a scene in episode 4, when the baseball episode, Full Swing, where you have Haruko, like, rubbing herself up. No, it's well, they kind of are, but there's, like, a sex scene between Naota's dad and Haruko, or at least we think it's Naota's dad, and then there's this one scene where he's, like, rubbing his body all over Haruko in this very sexual fashion. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, my brain is having trouble processing this, because I'm like, what are they doing? And it's a lot of confusion. Like I said, I can't really put it into words, but when they said that they're making this new series, I really just hope that they can capture that essence, that feeling that you get when you're watching it, about like just this is a fucking weird anime. Like I know there's other anime that are really weird out there. The one that comes to mind is XL Saga, which is just off the wall batshit in a similar manner to Fooly Cooly. Just a lot of people yelling and screaming and a bunch of different shit flying at you, and you probably shouldn't watch it if you're epileptic because you'll go into a freaking seizure. But I hope they can capture that feeling again, because I've seen it, of course, so many times. And I remember feeling very disheartened when I first finished it, because I felt genuinely like there has to be more to this story. This story cannot end here. But of course, this was 2006, and I think the original series was released in like the original Japanese release was in what, 2000, 2001? Yeah. So at this point, it was already 5 years old, and I'm looking at this being like, there's not going to be a new season. This is 5 years old, and they only made it as an OVA to test their new CG technology, right? So there's not going to be a sequel story to this. I would always think about what it would be like, though, like what the 7th episode would be, you know? And it's so, I cannot tell you how surreal it is right now to know that this is going to happen. It's unbelievable. It's almost like I feel like somewhere in the world somebody dug up like a genie lamp, and it's like, you've been granted 3 wishes, and he wishes, like, I wish Fooly Cooly gets 2 more seasons, and he's like, it's done. And that's what I feel like, because it feels like this would not happen in any other reality. A series that only existed as 6 episodes that originally aired over 15 years ago, just to test technology, just to test, they didn't even have a manga to set it up. And I know it was pretty popular in the United States when Toonami ran it. And the DVD releases, I think, did fairly well as well in the States. They had a box set that was released in 2006, and I got that one for my 13th birthday. And then in 2010, they re-released it as like it's just one disc for 6 episodes, and I remember in 2010 buying. That was already 6 fucking years ago, already, man. I've waited 10 years for this. It is so fucking serendipitous that it arrived. I mean, 10 years that it was. I'm very emotional about this. Let me read you the setup for this, because they released a synopsis of what the story is going to be about. So I'm just going to go through this here. In the new season of Fooly Cooly, many years have passed since Naota and Haruharu Haruko shared their adventure together. Meanwhile, the war between 2 entities known as Medical Mechanica and Fraternity was never mentioned in the original series, by the way, but apparently I guess if Medical Mechanica is the good guys, I guess the Fraternity might be like the Gundam wing of the Fooly Cooly universe. Enter Hidomi, a young teenage girl who believes there is nothing amazing to expect in her average life until one day when a new teacher named Haruko arrives at her school. Soon enough, Medical Mechanica is attacking her town, and Hidomi discovers a secret within her that could save everyone, a secret that only Haruko can unlock. So, it's a very similar story to Naota's, except with a teenage girl instead of with, a teenage boy. But they're doing the teenage aspect right anyway. I'm assuming Naota's going to show up at some point as an adult, and it would be very interesting to see how he turned out. But I'm glad that they're expanding a little bit on the lore of the story, because one of the reasons why I felt like it ended kind of like anticlimactic was because the whole series was kind of setting up this bigger battle. Like, this isn't just about Earth. This is about this Medical Mechanica, which is like a galactic empire that's like taking over all these planets. And then you have Atomisk, which is like this pirate dude that is also kind of, he's not really a good guy or a bad guy, but then you have the good guys, which I guess are this fraternity group. And yeah, it's like there was so much more to it than just what was happening on Earth. So I hope they expand upon that. The last scene of the anime, the actual last scene, like the post-credit scene, is a scene where Haruko is she's like flying off, like passing by Saturn on her Vespa out into the depths of space. And I always assumed that if it ever did come back, it would be meant doing something involving that, involving space or something like that. But that's my initial thoughts on it. I'm very emotional. Project IG's in on this, Toonami's in on this. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid here being like, oh, they're going to ruin my favorite series. I'm not going to do that. I'm fairly confident that we wouldn't have gotten anything otherwise. So I'm going to take this. But yeah, as we get more information, I'll make probably a more proper video. But I just wanted to give you my initial thoughts on this from somebody who really, truly, dearly loves this story. Okay. Well, that's enough of that. Thank you guys for watching. It's very late. I've been spending pretty much the entire day staring at a computer screen editing a bitch of a Bleach review. But tomorrow I gotta do another one. But it'll be a little bit more simpler. But anyway, thanks for listening to my ramblings. Good night, everybody.